Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Thursday American Scouser podcast. And we are so happy to be back after a 2 week hiatus on our international break. We got recharged and the batteries are back. And I'm joined here tonight with Jamie. How are we doing, Jamie?
100%, folks.
And Scotty Fish. Scotty, how are we doing tonight?
Hey, we're doing well. I'm happy to be back with you guys.
Glad to have you. So what a great week in which we saw our Red Ladies earn promotion, a week where we get a step closer to the Champions League semifinal. And I don't know if you guys have heard this, but there's some kind of match on Sunday that's of some importance.
I think maybe
and
somebody mentioned it.
Can't wait to get to it. But before we start any of that, we start every Thursday the way we do, which is with Jamie's 60 seconds of LFC news.
That's right, folks. We've got plenty to talk about today, so let's dive straight in, get their stopwatches out, and go. So today, great news. Fabinho, only no concussion symptoms, just a minor cut to the back of his head, so he's been treated for that and showing no signs of big worry and concern. So that's great news. Also, for those of you who are paying close attention to Salah on Instagram and every other form of social media, there's a cheeky little post there, seems to be pointing to signing along the dotted line. So stay tuned, I'm sure we all are. But the big news today, here we go. Hashtag here we go, Carvalho. So his championship season in numbers, briefly, we'll do a quick rundown, is 29 appearances, 56 shots, 54 chances created, 50 fouls won, 34 successful take-ons, 31 tackles, blah, blah, blah. The list could go on. 11 big chances created, 7 goals and 7 assists. So those are the big numbers. But also, he's only 19 years of age, folks. Welcome to Liverpool Football Club, young man. Also, like Gally said at the top of the hour there, if you've been living under a rock, the LFC women have been crowned champions and they have secured their WSL promotion for next year. Also, big news today, that Liverpool have a new official partnership with Cardless. So go on to the official website there. Lots of juicy incentives to keep your eye out. So it's a credit card, official branded credit card to come out today. But also, as you know me, there's been a couple of new songs dotted around recently. There's 2 new songs. There's the ABBA track for Tsimikas, and there's a great new Jurgen Klopp one. So I'm sure I'll be singing those for the rest of the week.
To be a fly on the wall in your home, Jamie, means, well, to have a headache as you sing songs all week long. And I love it. Keep it up. Keep the singing. So we're going to go right in, try to jump right in here to the match that we started with this week, the first leg in Portugal. Very nice to see the Reds make their way over there. Unfortunate to hear about the tough trouble in which that our Red supporters dealt with while they were there. But we're going to press on and talk a little bit about the lineup and really get into it. So I'm going to start with you, Jamie. We spent a lot of time Monday night, like usual, Tamuchin, myself, and Bickler, being wrong, talking about rotation. So I guess, what rotation when you take a look at this side? So when you first saw this side, Jamie, did you think we would see a little bit more rotation with the City match coming up? Were there any surprises? Why don't you take us through the defense and the midfield and your overall thoughts?
I mean, the beauty of Champions League football these days is there's 5 subs allowed, right? So, yes, rotation, but, you don't want to give too much away. And, I'm sure Jurgen Klopp, the MO is we're taking it one game at a time. We're not thinking about City, but I said he wasn't taking one eye wasn't on City with the lineup. So, you take a run through that lineup there. You've got Konate at the back and Trent back in. I think it's now or never for Trent. He probably had to start that game to get ready, get up the pace for City. The midfield, Naby, definitely a late comer to the lineup, I guess. But the front three, it had to be Bobby rested, I guess. But who knows? Maybe it is a slight nod to our big game on Sunday. But we'll find out on Sunday, won't we? But like I said at the top there, it's 5 subs, beautiful thing. So hopefully the Premier League next year we can wait for that.
And Scott, what about you when it came to that front three? What were your thoughts on the starters that they put through and, how they performed early on in the match leading up?
Yeah, I think that initially speaking, like you guys were mentioning on Monday, rotation wasn't what I, thought was going to be key. I wrote about it. You guys may read in a little bit. Just my thoughts on, Mohamed Salah and does he need any sort of rest, or is he the type of player, which we know he is, who wants to be out there 90 minutes every single game? I expected Mane and Diaz for sure. I just didn't know who the third one was going to be. And in the end, it was Salah. I thought that, Liverpool fans maybe thought that this game was going to be a cakewalk. And in the end, a 3-1 scoreline definitely is something I'd take every day. But the reality is that I thought that Benfica had a decent back line. I thought that they really held Salah and held Mane pretty well. I thought that Mane's first touch in the first half was a little bit wayward. Diaz, I thought, was electric. It was almost like he was happy to be back in Portugal playing against a team that he's known to play against well, and he had a point to prove. But for the first little bit in the first half, I thought it was honors even. And obviously, once we get that goal from Konate, things really started looking our way, at least till the end of the first half.
Yeah, and
2 34-year-olds at center back.
Yeah, two 34-year-olds who maybe definitely left the Premier League maybe at the wane of their career with several mistakes from each of them. You right?
Yeah, I would argue that their back line was what allowed us to get at them, and that they actually played better than I thought they would. They actually played more expansive than I believed they would. They came out more against us than they did against Ajax, which makes sense because I think against Ajax, they thought they could sit back and mop up the pressure. And I think against us, they knew, at least at home, they had to come out in the first leg and try to score a goal or two. Because I think they knew we were going to score at least 2. And we'll get to the third, and we'll talk about the second half subs. But you make a great point. So, Jamie, let's take it to that first goal, 17th minute. We earned the corner, which was, great tracking and good hustle caused by, a mistake by their back line led to the corner. And then the man Mountain himself, Konate, steps up and just pile drives that header in. So outside of Fabinho almost blowing out his knee to slide across the grass and catch up, and Mrs. Fabinho definitely won the first half of all tweets when within seconds she calls her husband out like, I don't know what he's doing here. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you two have to have the best relationship of any two people at this club. Outside of Bobby and his wife, because they're clearly the happiest because there's a picture of them at every minute of every day together. But Konate's goal, he scores that. What's the elation happening in North Carolina? And how excited were you for the young man to kind of finally break his duck?
Great header. Like, as a center forward, that's exactly what you want. Towering header, powering above everybody else, but downwards into that bottom corner. Like, the keeper's never saving that. Strong connection on the header too. I mean, he just broke free. But yeah, when you're that size and you're that stature, he made it look easy. Absolutely, Rebecca Tavares definitely straight on Fabinho's arse, because rightly so. Listen, I'm in the Flacco range as well. I'm in the skinny boy range as well. 6 foot tall, 100 pounds soaking wet. We don't need him injuring himself right now, trying to knee slide. Like Konate, I feel like it's not the size of the boat, it's the motion in the ocean type thing. Like that's an immovable object. No sense of a dry pitch will stop that man knee sliding. He's fine. He's like the Titanic. He probably takes three miles to take a left turn whilst he's sliding. But yeah, come on, Fabinho, wise up.
So obviously this great graphic that was supplied to us for tonight's podcast, is illustrating that by Konate scoring in Portugal, he became the 20th different senior player to score for this club this campaign. It's just an amazing, amazing accomplishment. And if we really think back to 2-3 years ago, when literally all the goals came from the front three, and maybe a goal or two here or there in the midfield, Ox chipped in with a handful, and then we'd get the occasional header out. We got little from Trent, we got little from Robo. So really, for them to have 20 different goal scorers, Scotty, talk to us a little bit about what that means to you, kind of the progression of the squad and the overall depth that we're building.
It's a testament to the squad, and it's a testament to the depth that the back room has created. But I would also say it's a testament to Jurgen Klopp and his ability to be able to make a game plan that complements all the different players on our squad. We're not just looking to make a one-dimensional team that gets the ball to the front three like we used to and let them do their magic. Don't get me wrong, all of our front three are capable of doing that. But I do think that we've now kind of have gradually seen this progression in our style of play that has goals chipping from the midfield, has goals chipping in from outside, has goals chipping in from set pieces, which, hell, when you think maybe pre-Jurgen Klopp times, remember that was an anomaly, seeing set piece goals. And now, just the delivery that we have coming from Trent and coming from Robo, we're clearly dangerous. And I do fully believe that, seeing 20 different goal scorers really shows, that our depth has gone leaps and bounds. And frankly, it's a joy to watch as a fan.
Boaz chimes in, and we ask all of our listeners out there to please add your comments. We'll bring you into the show. But for those listening, Boaz Levin says, best Liverpool in our lifetime. And I have to be honest, it's hard to argue it. I mean, I'm 44 years old, so I did see some great squads in the 80s. And there was some, high times in the late 80s, early 90s. But what they're doing right now to compete on 4 different fronts, to compete with arguably one of the most expensive and most successfully put together sides in Manchester City. I mean, the medals that those players won before they even got to Manchester compared to the players in which that we've signed at smaller clubs and have built up through the process, I think speaks a lot to what Jurgen is building here. So, Jamie,
I'll go one more, Gally. I'll go one more.
Thank you, brother.
I think, we're not very far off having a debate or a discussion or an argument, pick your poison, that this is the best Liverpool in Liverpool's lifetime. And I'm fully aware of the royalties and we didn't become kings of Europe and European royalty out of nothing. But without City, I think we're chainmailing titles and all sorts of things. I think it's obviously a big debate and all the rest, but I do think very soon, if not currently right now, we could definitely have a discussion about this being the best days of a Liverpool lifetime.
Well, I will definitely say we have, the better part of 8 weeks here where, to Boaz's emojis that no one can see with the fingers crossed all the way across the screen. If the next 5 to 6 weeks go the way that every Liverpool supporter is hoping for, I don't know that there'll be much argument. I think we'll put to bed the question of whether or not it's the best Liverpool of our lifetime. And I think if you win a domestic treble at this point, in today's spending, in today's Premier League, with the money that's flowing around, the fact that, bottom half sides can sign 50, 60 million pound players. I just think that the competitive nature to win those titles in today's landscape and to do it over the consistency that this team has done, while also still buying young players and strengthening the club from within and re-signing players and building on your stadium, I think it would be very, very hard to argue that there's been a more successful period than what we're watching in the last 2 to 3 season campaign. But let's move on to the second half. So we get the second goal from Mane, which was another beautiful goal.
Amazing cross from Trent.
Wonderfully set up. Just a great cross by Trent. We're getting used to seeing that, as we always say. But we get to that second half, and we get to that 70-minute or 60-minute mark, 55-minute mark, right before they score the goal. And clearly it takes a massive mistake for them to get on the score sheet. But they were playing their game. They were sitting back. They were hitting us on the counter. They had a few opportunities even in the first half. So when Konate makes the mistake, Scott, how are you feeling as a Liverpool supporter, at 2-1, because it is a completely different two-legged tie at 2-1 and them on the front foot?
I will say, and something that I grew up when playing, my coach always mentioned that 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline to have, because it's a false sense of security, because just one goal brings the opposing team straight back into the match, gives them momentum. Prior to that goal, I thought that Konate, like you said, was a man mountain back there. I thought he did fantastic in the first half with his recovery runs. Man's fast as hell, strong as hell, as you can see, bullying Darwin, who's a fantastic player. And I thought that he did amazing, but obviously everybody's prone to a mistake. I'm not going to, negate his qualities just because he made a mistake, but obviously it's a big time, and it's in the middle of a Champions League knockout leg, and it was tough. I was a little bit nervous initially. As soon as the goal was scored, I have to admittedly say that at 2-1, I was nervous, but obviously you look at the quality on the field, you look at the players that we have at our disposal and the players coming into the match following with Klopp's changes. And it was definitely something that I felt that we could handle properly because we've been there in the past.
And Jamie, before we get to the actual specifics of the changes, you made the comment about when we were talking about the lineups, about the 5 substitutions. Were you surprised with such a big match coming up and the fact that we did look a little, stagnant at times early in that second half after conceding the goal? Were you surprised that he waited until, the 60th minute mark there to even bring in, his 3-pack of substitutions?
Right. I mean, unless something's horribly wrong, that's his go-to. The 60-minute mark is that, unless you're Naby Keita and he subbed him off at halftime not too long ago. All joking aside, we're going to talk about Naby getting on. But yeah, quick word on Ibu. Just obviously couldn't get his feet sorted out for such a big guy, but I think that's a lot to do with his immaturity. If you're a bit more of a seasoned vet, you use your left foot and just swing it out into a throw in or even out for a corner. At that point, it just needs to go into route Z. Just stick it into the fans. Yeah, like you said, I mean, he played really well in the team, and a big shout out to Ibu as well, because at such a young age to almost just waltz into not first team, but into the first team discussion. He's done amazingly well, and I do think he is going to be fantastic, a great career ahead of him. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't too surprised with the late subs from Klopp. Yeah, I think I hate that quote as well, Scott, that 2-0 is the most dangerous fucking. I hate that because as much truth is in it, it shouldn't be, right? That it's an oxymoron. It shouldn't be. 2-0 is the hardest. No, well, surely not. No, 0-0 is, right. Or you're losing.
Well, yeah, I mean, right? You'd rather have a lead. You'd rather have a lead than not have a lead.
I hate it.
I was going to say the same thing. I'd take 2-0 over 1-0 any day of the week.
Sure, but it's one of those quotes that's been bound around and it's stuck around like a bad smell.
Now the one thing I'll say with that is that I think that the quote derives from teams that maybe take a step back and take their pedal off, or their foot off the pedal, who maybe aren't as mentally resilient as Liverpool. So
and another thing needs to be said is their fans got right behind them at that moment. And you know, all the joking aside about how terribly the Liverpool supporters were handled over there in Portugal and Lisbon. You know, the fans were great. There was no sort of violence anyway, at least knock on wood. But yeah, just, you know, seems pointless, you know, stopping women and children and that going into the game. Like I seen one of the quotes on one of the Facebook groups or something. Oh, the Liverpool ultras. I'm like, what? The Liverpool ultras? we don't have an ultras. Everyone is all a Liverpool ultra. You know what I mean? Like there is no bullshit like that. So I don't know. It's mad. But yeah.
So the subs come on at 61 minutes. You know, Jota comes on for Mo. Bobby comes on for Sadio. And for me, probably the most important substitution was probably Jordan coming on for Thiago. Not that even Jordan had his best 30 or 40-minute performance. We've seen the captain come on before when the team needed to get grabbed by the scruff of the neck and carry us over the line. I can think of an exuberant goal celebration after he clinched the Southampton win and the big fist pump and shaking it to an empty crowd. And it didn't matter. You know, it was like there was 100,000 people there cheering him on. I'll never forget it. But I thought the most important piece of Jordan's introduction was allowing Naby to move over to his most natural and comfortable position. And, you know, I do want to spend a little time talking about Naby's day. Like usual, Naby Keita, the lightning rod that is Liverpool Football Club. He can either get the 9 man of the match from Liverpool Echo, or he can be the guy vilified in the first half for everything that goes wrong because he misses 2 headers from inside the box when he made almost every attacking play we had going on. So I thought some of these stats were really, really great on this graphic. And also, it's not coming up for me. Sorry here. Try and bring that back up in a second here. But the what Naby was bringing there, I mean, the numbers were just outstanding. You know, we were looking here at a 92 pass accuracy, 78 passes, 10 duels won, 8 ball recoveries, 7 touches in the box. I feel like I'm doing that Christmas song where we just count down great things until we get to a partridge in a pear tree.
Right.
5 tackles made. But, you know, in all seriousness, it was just a great day. 2 chances created, you know, an interception, through balls, and more importantly, that assist.
I think the assist is very generous, isn't it?
It was generous, but I do genuinely believe he did drive into the lane, and I do think he was playing him in. I think the ricochet made it.
And the vision to see the run, the vision to take the space, like you said. I mean, it's something that we can't take for credit or can't take for granted, that is.
I mean, to Jamie's point, I do think he was playing him down the right-hand channel, which would have led probably him away from goal and probably wouldn't have led to such a beautiful, you know, where he was able to just take it by the keeper. But I think the idea of the fact that he broke up the play, took the 2 strong dribbles, and as we always talk about Naby, Jamie, and I know you're a big fan of his talent like I am, just haven't been able to harness it and see it in a Liverpool kit yet, is I feel like it's these moments on the European stage where his skills come out the best because he has a little bit more space, a little more time on the ball, and he's just a little bit more apt to take on players. He still looks to me like he's nervous at times and maybe second guesses his decisions. But I felt like once he got to move into that Thiago role, and he knew Henderson was doing the job on the right, that we saw the best of Naby Keita. So with that, I guess my question for you, Jamie, and we'll start with you, is what do you do when you have a mercurial talent like Naby Keita, but you have someone as great as Thiago, but you try to play them together and it just almost doesn't work? Do you just have to do that thing where one plays 60, the other plays 30, and you share those time and the minutes on the pitch based on who you're playing?
I'd be fine. I'd be fine with that. Alan, you're totally fine. Sorry you missed the start of the show. Don't worry. We'll fine you for next week's episode, mate.
It's the free pass.
No, yeah. You're fine for showing up late to training, mate. You're done. 1 week's wages. Naby, listen, and he's fully aware of it too. Like he said, we haven't seen the true Naby Keita. Like he said that there the other day in the interview, and then of course gets injured for international break. I'm fine with the 60-30 thing. I really am, but ideally you want Naby having the 60 and you want Thiago having the 30, because Thiago can come in 30 minutes and just absolutely boss a game at the death, dictate, metronome, maestro. He's brilliant at doing that. Whereas Naby's fitness hasn't really allowed him to get 60 minutes a game. So it's a difficult one. I guess we're always guilty of wanting something you can't have, you know what I mean? And it's like Naby's promised us the world, and I think he will get there. I don't know. I go back and forth on this all the time. I said this year was a very big season for Naby Keita, like it's make or break time. I feel like we get a lot of those moments with Naby. I feel like, we build up our anticipation because we know the players there. We know what type of you said mercurial. I mean, that pretty much sums it up. He is an enigma. You don't know which Naby Keita is going to show up. And like I said, he knows that himself because he said as much. He said, the real Naby Keita hasn't been here recently. And he said he's feeling like he's getting to that 100%, and the coach is working with him and all the rest. So maybe there'll be some more sparks of genius. You're absolutely right, by the way, Gally. I think he does perform better under the European lights. And the same could be said for a lot of players. But I think he is very much a European player. He's definitely not an English Premier League player. Not to say that he can't become stronger and better on the ball and be that sort of Thiago type. But yeah, you've got somebody like, the architect Thiago to learn from. You're going to pick up a few things no matter what age of a player you are. You can't teach new dogs or old dogs new tricks. I think you can, especially, if you can't learn something from somebody like Thiago, you probably shouldn't be on the pitch.
Well, you're done learning if you're not picking anything up. And all you had to know if you wanted to learn something was to watch that match on CBS's Paramount coverage. Because I made a joke in our Discord channel, if Thiago ever goes missing, the first place they should look for him is at that announcer's home, because she loved her some Thiago. I mean, have you ever had anyone she must have told me 150 times if I had a young kid that wanted to be a midfielder. I thought to myself, how many kids do you have and how many times have you told them they should look after Thiago?
And it was funny because every time she mentioned him, that was the one time that he would displace a pass or the one time that he would lose possession. Every other 100 chances he'd had, it was perfect.
When to Jamie's point, though, and I agree with it, I thought this was a big make or break year for Naby. And I said, I think, Jamie, me and you in the summertime were on a pod together, and we both kind of said, I think he has to have a big year. This is probably it for him. And at the same time, in my next breath, I said, don't be surprised, though. I truly feel, and it's to Jamie's point, he's more of a European player. I believe if they decide, we're going to sell Naby Keita and he gets sold to Inter Milan, I think he walks into the Serie A Team of the Year. I think if he goes to Spain, he goes right back to bossing midfields and creating and playing deep and playing 2-3 different roles. I mean, people forget he was like the N'Golo Kante of the Bundesliga, playing at little RB Leipzig, and he won the Bundesliga Player of the Year. There's a reason they spent the money. It hasn't worked out yet, but I do think we're seeing some signs. So before we move off of the Benfica match and we move on to kind of the rest of the program here and kind of shift gears, let me get your thoughts because the next tie will be played before you guys come on again next week. Mm-hmm. So second leg at Anfield, what are you expecting from the sides? Do you think it's done? Scott, we'll start with you.
Yeah, to reverberate what Jamie Carragher said all throughout the post game. I think the tie is done. I think that in terms of Liverpool's quality and specifically mentality. And when I say leg is done, I don't mean we can sit back and relax. I just expect that Liverpool's intensity mixed with playing a game at home with a 2-goal advantage, I do believe that we have more than enough. Even if we play a lot of our squad players, we have enough at our disposal to be able to functionally win that game. I do think that there's going to be rotation just on the sheer fact that we're going to be coming off of a very intense game with Manchester City and have a game against none other than Manchester City the weekend after. Like we said, we take one game at a time, but the reality is with a 2-goal cushion and a game at home against Benfica, I do think that there has to be some sort of rotation going in with our back line and our midfield, and whoever maybe doesn't start from our front line gets the start against Benfica. That being said, I don't really see a drop off in quality because of that.
Jamie, how about you quickly? What do you think on this second leg coming back to Anfield? Is it good night, the lights?
Absolutely. Shut up shop. Welcome to Anfield. You've got 90 minutes to play here. And, I don't think we need to be lackadaisical about it. I think we do need to be defensively resolute. I do think we need to be on our game. So as much as we are going to have some rotation there, and again, European games, we've got 5 subs. I think we can rotate enough to where, if need be, we can change the game either way. We can take a step up or we can take a gear down. So I think, and kind of going on what BJ is saying there, the player isn't going to want the 60-30, will they? Well, of course they want to play, but it's Jurgen Klopp's job. He just said, he's like, everybody wants to play. They're all asking me to play. It's his job to tell them yes, no, or maybe, So, Of course, nobody wants to have a week off, especially as it's getting closer and closer. There are no days off anymore. Every game's a final, etc. And all the players know this and have said as much. But I think the tie's done, but that doesn't mean we need to, depending on whatever result we get at City. We get our 3 points, we get our 1 point, or we don't get anything. God forbid, touch wood. We draw a line in the sand there, and we welcome Benfica because, like everybody's been saying, and paying them a bit of lip service. You don't get into the quarterfinals for nothing. They did beat a good Ajax team, like we've been saying, but we're different. This is Liverpool and this is Anfield we're talking about. So yes, have that confidence, but keep it tight. Keep it tight at the back.
Yeah, the way I look at it, they would be very, very lucky if we only scored 1 goal. And it's not like Karim Benzema is coming into town. So I don't think we have to worry about Darwin Nunez dropping a hat trick on us at Anfield. Though I will say, if anyone really wanted to know what this match in England is all about, it is about how much of the good EPL cash Benfica is going to get. Because Darwin Nunez is in the shop window for Newcastle, West Ham, Arsenal, and everyone looking for a 19-year-old or 22-year-old striker who's got 30 goals in 20 games.
Yeah.
And I don't care where you play. If you score goals in the Champions League, you deserve to be in a bigger league. And he looks to me like he can play on the top stage. So I'm excited to see what he'll do, not on Wednesday, but next year playing for one of our rivals. Each and every time he plays against anyone but us. But we're going to pivot now. Last on Monday night, for those of you that joined us, we chatted a little bit about the women's supporters group, the official Liverpool Women Supporters group, and our affiliation with them, and how excited we are to get them as part of the American Scouser family. And today we have our first video submission from Joe, who heads up this group. So we're going to let Joe address all of us now.
It up, the Reds are going up, don't you know? Pump it up, the Reds are going up. Hey American Scouser fans, as you can see, I am still grinning and buzzing ear to ear about Sunday's game. What a win, what a win. I'm so glad to see the girls are getting promoted back into the WSL where we belong. So yeah, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Joe and I run the Liverpool Women Supporters Club. I'm sure Timuchin will work his magic and put all the links down below for if you want to follow us, join up as a member. And yeah, just keep on supporting the girls and let's keep our fingers crossed we can get some good wins next season and, you know, hopefully not get relegated again. But yeah, it was an amazing game. I'm sure all the American fans are really happy to see Katie Stengel get back on the score sheet again as well. You know, goals from Jazz Matthews, Neve and Bo. Absolutely incredible. It was an amazing game. We had 2 coachfuls of us from Liverpool who travelled down to Bristol to watch the game. Record attendance of 5,752 for a championship game, which was amazing. To be part of that crowd was just, it was just so good. We were there with our flags, with our red wigs, if you didn't see us already. And yeah, it was just such a brilliant day. Lots of amazing memories for everyone to take home. So happy. But yeah, really looking forward to doing some updates for you guys in the next few months. We'll see about doing maybe some collaboration over the summer, and then going into next season, hopefully we'll get some updates for you guys from our end as well, which will be really nice. And yeah, just fingers crossed we can just grow the fan base, we can get more supporters and followers for the Red Women, and let's just keep it growing. And thank you all for your support. We've had a few people over from America. So last week on Sunday's game, I was lucky enough to meet Adam from LFC Boston. And we've also had some fans over from Florida, California, and other places as well in America. So it's really amazing to see a lot of American fans are able to actually travel over here and get to some of the games, especially if they tie it in with a men's game as well. But yeah, fingers crossed a lot more of you can make it over in the future, and I would love to meet all you guys. And if I ever make it over to America, I'm sure you guys will be, you know, very hospitable and more than welcome to come and meet up with us as well. So fingers crossed we can grow the fan base, we can just make the next few years, the next lot of years, incredible and amazing for the Reds. So thank you very much, and Timuchin, back over to you.
So clearly, like everything else, Timuchin is just going to take credit for all of this. And Joe didn't realize that the younger and better looking version of the host was filling in tonight. But in all seriousness, thank you to Joe for taking the time to do the video. It was so refreshing to hear that there's American fans getting over there. This is actually my official LFC Boston sweatshirt, because I'm a card-carrying member of the Liverpool Supporters Group, and Adam is the head of their social media, and he's a great fan of our website and a supporter of ours. So I'm so happy to see that he got to the match last week and that he was able to get over there as well. And as a reminder to everyone, we did put the Liverpool Women Supporters Club web URL in the description. After the podcast, we will also make sure and put some comments in each of these posts. Please check them out. If you click on their supporters hub on their website, you will see that we are proudly represented there. So please follow these folks. They're doing amazing work covering our women's team. And for anyone out there listening to us that hasn't caught a women's match yet or taken the time to learn a little bit about the women's side, I challenge you to do that. You know, we follow the youth teams, we follow the men's adult sides. You know, we get up early on the weekends to watch, you know, old timers games or the Veterans Days at Anfield. Support the ladies, support the women's side. It's all Liverpool, it's all one club, and I'm proud of the fact that American Scouser as a website and as a whole has done a much better job following it, and we're very lucky to have Joe associated with us and lucky to have Kim and Megan and the rest of the folks on our webpage that are bringing so much great content. So up the Red Women, back to the WSL.
Back to the WSL, yes. Gally, I just wanted to piggyback off that. I definitely looked in the mirror and like you said, you know, to challenge yourself to try to take some more emphasis and watching the women's game. And I think that, you know, in terms of, you know, the WSL as a whole, but more specifically, the Liverpool Women are on the ups and ups. And, Missy Bo Kearns is breaking into that England national team. And if you want to specify, specifically an American with Katie Stengel on that team, it's something to really get behind. And it's amazing what they're doing. And I think that as Liverpool fans, we have a responsibility to focus on the entirety of Liverpool, not just the men's senior team.
100%.
Completely agree with you. And
how could you not get
together?
How could you not get on the bandwagon? Champions, they went down last year, and a lot of criticism was kind of leveled at us as fans for not kind of getting involved with the whole women's setup and all the rest of it, and enjoying. Whilst we had a good team, we did get relegated, but now we're back up, and the girls are doing themselves proud because they really do look the proper article. All you need to do is show me the crest, and I'm sold. As soon as you see the crest, you're good to go.
And I'm gonna say this: we all know I'm far from a FSG basher or FSG out guy, but I also feel like you have to be critical when there's reason to be critical. Good on them for figuring it out. They're only a decade late, so don't go and hide behind the fact you came up. Keep investing in the side. Get them better practice facilities, get them better wages, give them better means to travel to away matches, get them better support. If we're going to call on us supporters to recognize it in the mirror, we need to call on management to do it as well. But we only have 20 minutes left in this podcast, and there is this little old thing we have called a match on Sunday. And it is beautifully illustrated right here. April 10th, 11:30 a.m. on the USA Network. Exactly. That means you can't complain, people, about Peacock or anything else. Find it wherever you stream or steal television like most I know. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a doozy. Jamie, we're going to start with you. Let's start with the lineup. Where do you think this is the max best 11? And why don't we just kind of all agree, Jamie, rip off who you think will be the back four?
I mean, the back five, right? We know the back five.
Speaks for itself.
The midfield three, we've got to go best three. That's Naby. It's Fab, Hendo, Thiago. Up front, I kind of think, and I've been kind of thinking this all week, I think City are probably prepared for Bobby, Mane, Mo. There's a potential argument there that you could throw in Diaz, you could throw in Jota, just to give them something that they're maybe not prepared for. But in typical fashion for myself, I'm quietly confident. I'm not as nervous as I possibly would or have been if Liverpool are in the ascendancy. If we're first, City are coming to Anfield, I'd probably be a bit more worried, and that probably makes perfect Irish sense, which means none at all. I don't know. I'm just quietly relaxed about this whole thing.
Scott, any difference for you in the starting 11? Obviously, I think we all agree, and that was where I was going with the joke, was like, give me your back four, and I figured he was just going to say the midfield will be, which you plugged it perfectly, Jamie. Thank you. But Scott, the front three is really the only way for me there's any questions. Jamie gave you who he thought, that it would probably be Sadio, Mo, and Bobby, the tried and true. What are your feelings on who you think you'll see in the front three to start?
Let's start off with you saying if I was any different than Jamie. I'm freaking the heck out over here. Okay. I'm both ecstatic and nervous and happy and agitated and all of the above. Just the build up to this game, how the commentators, how the press, how the fans of both clubs, the fans of every club are putting this game. They're saying, quote unquote, the most important Premier League game in the modern Premier League era, which I don't know if I fully agree with that, but the reality is that this is a damn important game to this club. And I think with the importance, obviously you're going to have Salah and Mane in there. The main tick that fans may be deciding on is whether they truly believe that we should do our tried and trusted on Bobby, or bring in this, who could arguably be one of the players of the season in Jota, have, Salah not scored the amount of goals that he has. I personally think that we'll see Jota. I personally think that Diogo is going to start up front. And the reason behind that is because without Diaz, I think that just the mobility in their center backs, I honestly think that Jota is going to run them rampant. But hey, I can be wrong.
Yeah, so it's funny. I've been the one on the Monday podcast, that's argued that I really believe the days of Bobby seeing, big starts were past him. But I'm with Jamie. I think we see Bobby in the center of the pitch primarily because of what City does and what Bobby does in pulling players out of position, especially with Diaz not being there right now and being injured. That leaves a big hole in that central defense and their leadership. And I think that Bobby's movement and his interchange with both Mo and Sadio offers something really different and more dynamic. And I think against a free-flowing side like City, and we've seen it against Arsenal with how he's tormented Arsenal over the years based on why, because it's very similar to Pep's principles, right, being implemented by Arteta. And I think we do see Bobby. If there was a question for me, it might have been whether Sadio might have started from the bench, but I think the idea of getting both Sadio and Mo off the pitch at the 60-minute mark let me know that there was a plan in place. Yeah. And I really think that what Diaz offers, and to a lesser extent what Jota brings, is I think they offer more in a substitution role to attack a defense with fresh legs and the speed and quickness, and Jota's uncanny ability to pop up and score a big goal in a big moment. And I just
say that, but Jota scored the opening goal for Liverpool. I think it's like 10 times this season.
Wow.
He scored the opener. So I do get what you're saying, but to counterpoint that, but also beef up what you're saying is, like, when he starts, he hits the ground running. When he comes on, he hits the ground running. I completely get what you're saying. But equally, there's just as good an option to start him as well. But I mean, and I think that's the beauty of it, right? We can keep City guessing, because you could start any combination of those front five, and I'd be totally happy.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think that is definitely a great point. You could start any of these players. I think the difference here is, and I do agree with you, he scored a lot of big goals, and he also scored a lot of goals to start and got the first goal because Bobby missed 60% of the matches until December. So there was almost a starting out of necessity. The options were Origi and Taki, and Ox. I mean, these were our options up front. And as you get more healthy and you get more people in, my thing with Jota is I think he brings more from the bench, because I think it takes Bobby 10 or 15 minutes to get going and to find his way into a game. So when you bring him on in the 70th minute, and as much as I am quietly optimistic like Jamie about this matchup, I think this is a match you have to at least anticipate there is a chance that you don't score the first goal. And if you don't score the first goal, I think you have to have goals and players who can create goals to come off the bench and make a change. And I think if there's one thing we have over City right now, and people would probably say that crazy, is I think we are actually the deeper of the two sides, both by overall talent and the health of the squad. So I almost feel like giving them a little bit of what they might expect and what they've seen in the past actually positions us better to almost unleash Jota and Diaz running at them. And honestly, I think it's for whichever of the front three is, or whichever of the front two is playing best, whether it's Mo or Mane. I would not be shocked at all to see Mo get the yank at some point in the second half if Jurgen feels like he's not having his best day. So, Jamie, I'll ask you this. You told us you're confident before we get to your prediction. Where will this game be won or lost by Liverpool Football Club?
On the sidelines, lads, I think we've got the 11 to do the job. I think it's all on Klopp's shoulders for the big one, and whether or not Pep's gonna try and outthink, reinvent the wheel or whatever. Like I think this is won and lost almost already. I think we've done the groundwork already. I think the game's won. I think I'm genuinely that bullish about it. I think we're just going to walk in there and take the 3 points. I think the sort of mind games and things like that, the press conferences that I've seen, we're already under City's skin. We're in their heads, and I'm not saying we're living rent free because I couldn't give. I don't care. Don't care what they're thinking. Don't care what they're saying. Yet they're doing it. You know what I mean? Yet all they can do is talk about us. Whereas from us, it's just one game at a time. My players don't think like that. All these cliche from Klopp. It's brilliant. I love it. I think I don't listen. I'm not going to say they're unraveling, but I think we've got the beating of them from the get go, from the sideline.
Yeah.
Scott, what about you? In your opinion, I know you're not as bullish and you're a little bit more nervous. Some might say you might be more down to earth or on this planet. But we love Jamie and we absolutely adore your passion. And I wish I was that confident. I'm pretty confident, but not nearly that confident to call it one already. But for you, Scott, where is this match won or lost by our Reds?
Listen, Jamie made a really good point there in terms of their mentality. They're talking about us, things like that. And it's something that I can't recall happening in the 18-19 season where we went neck and neck with them. I just don't recall them worrying about us so much. They were more so doing their own thing. And now I just read today how Pep basically said the 14-point gap was fake. He said it wasn't a real 14-point gap because we had 2 games in hand. The reality is that Liverpool have gone on a sensational run to make this game a really deciding game, or at least a very important game, when we could have come in here 6 points back instead of only 1 point back. I think that the game is won with won and lost, that is, in just keeping the mentality all the way to the 90 minutes. I don't see this being a high scoring game. I don't see this being, a 4-3 like we've seen in the past. I see this as a very, very tight game, and I see it as a physically grueling game. And the one place that I can possibly say is that the reality is Liverpool and Manchester City do not play the same style. And I don't care what anyone says, we do not play the same style. And if Liverpool are capable of getting towards the wings of City without their wingers coming back in support, we will have the upper hand because our numbers will be higher than them. If their outside forwards, whether that be De Bruyne going on the right side or Sterling or Grealish, whoever is going to be playing out wide on Sunday, if they have a lapse and keep high while Liverpool counters, I think that's going to be our best bet on scoring. But again, it's going to be physically tough. It's going to be mentally draining for them and for fans. And I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. And I think we have enough to win for sure.
Yeah, I would probably say it's the midfield for me. I think it's Fab. I think it's Fab breaking up play, Fab, doing a job on De Bruyne and not allowing him into those pockets of space that he likes to take on, and then the deep lying runs he makes. I think Fabinho's role of sitting in front of, Matip and Virgil is going to be immense. And I think Trent plays a huge, huge role here. Whether it's Grealish on the left, whether it's Foden playing the false 9, You know, anyone who remembers back to that matchup at Anfield, you know, Foden basically, and I know it was old man Jimmy Milner just filling in on a day. He didn't think he had to play right back. But what Foden did in that day was, you know, almost put one more nail into the, maybe it's time to take, you know, fill out that application for the coaching badges. Because I'm not sure I want to chase 19-year-old kids around. They don't let me kick these English kids like they let me kick the kids from Portugal. And, you know, to me, it's those two spots. It's Fabinho commanding the midfield and really outplaying Rodri in that role of being that holding midfielder. And then it's Trent, you know, still going forward, creating the space and the width that he does on the right, and more importantly, making sure that he understands his defensive assignments and doesn't check off or turn off. Because I will say this is a matchup where 11 guys have to show up and stay locked in for 90 minutes. Because this side is as good a quality as we are when it comes to, if you give them an inch, they will take it. And Atletico Madrid put on a defensive masterclass in the oldest of dark Simeone arts of kicking people and just waiting. And somehow Phil Foden found one pass and Kevin De Bruyne had one space. And City goes back to Madrid up 1-0.
Yeah.
And then,
but
and
I think that's all.
Jamie, it was a point of why we have to stay in the point of it. And I do agree with you, but where I was going was that this side is one that will take, to both of your points, 90 minutes of commitment. And I was really about to, when I was finishing, Jamie, was to give you the credit. I think you are spot on, and I didn't want to repeat after, is that the difference is I think Jurgen Klopp can make changes mid-match without losing everything he did for 3 days up to it. And I think Pep loses his mind mid-match, and at times you can see it on the style and the wherewithal of his players. So I'm sorry to cut you off, Jamie, but I wanted to
absolutely.
bring it full circle.
All I wanted to say was, I think the Atletico Madrid thing, it's kind of like, you know, robbing a bank and not getting caught. You have to hope everything goes right and one thing goes wrong and the cops, you know, that's what the cops are hoping for one thing to go wrong and then they find you. I think Atletico Madrid were kind of hoping against hopes that they were going to do everything right, but all it takes is one thing to go wrong and City win that game. You know, Scott, shoot me, arrest me if that's a terrible analogy, but all I'm saying is they wanted everything had to go absolutely right 100% of the time for Atletico Madrid to come out with anything there.
For sure.
And that one moment of brilliance, and listen, City are no slouches, even Phil Foden, you know, fair play to them, one moment of brilliance. But I don't think we're going to have any hesitation getting up for this fight. And we're not going to fight the same way that Atletico did. We know all that, right? Theirs is very much on the ropes, doing the rope-a-dope. We're going to come out and be the complete. Yeah. We're going to be swinging to take them off there.
So what? Give me that bullish Jamie, Irish Jamie final score.
Let's go. What I want is 3-1. I'll take 2-1 and then we'll get a cheeky goal at the very end to settle the nerves. But ideally, we're probably going to win by a goal. So 1-0 or 2-1, I'll take it. So I've covered all my bases there. 1-0, 2-1 or 3-1. But no, honestly, I'll go with 2-1. I'll go with 2-1.
I'm feeling Jamie. It's a rare occasion. Jamie and I are seeing eye to eye right here. It's a 2-1 written all over it. It's going to be a boxing match back and forth. It's going to be a hell of a game, and I think we have enough to take this.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be a one-goal affair. You know, I'll say we've played, I think, 3 out of the last 5 with them to 0-0 draws, which is just crazy in itself. But I'm gonna say let's go with I'm gonna say a 1-0 good guys win, and Mo will get off the score sheet, score from open play, so people can stop saying that he just takes penalties.
That's what I'm talking about.
And from that came from Scott's article, which we'll post shortly after the podcast airs and finishes up tonight. But before we go, guys, I thought it would be fun. You know, the only thing better than Liverpool wins, well, is Everton pain. So I thought maybe we would share this missive for the group, which I thought might be the quote of the year, which is Frank Lampard has lost the same number of games, 6, as Everton manager, as Liverpool have in the whole of 2018-19, 19-20, and 21-22. He did that in 8 games compared to the 106 it took us. And for anyone that doesn't realize how bad statistically that is, Everton Football Club, since the 1st of October, has secured the least amount of points of any side in any of the top 5 leagues. Think about that. That is absolutely amazing, stunning, and who in the world would have ever thought I would ever have so much fun celebrating a Sean Dyche victory? But the idea that Sean Dyche went to his team at halftime, gave them a rousing speech, and ended it with, "Don't worry, Everton doesn't know how to win." That was a Burnley manager. And if I could do it in my own Sean Dyche voice, I'd probably pick a fight with my own mom.
You need to smoke about 4 cigarettes at a time.
Let me leave one more stat, okay? Andreas Townsend is Everton's top scorer in the Premier League. He hasn't scored since October. He's their top scorer.
It's an unbelievable thing, guys. So we thought we would have a little fun at their expense at the end of this to lighten it up. Thank all
Everton getting mentioned in the Champions League. That'll be the first and only time that ever happens.
Well, they weren't mentioned in the Champions League. They were just mentioned.
Yeah. No, they were mentioned in the Champions League.
That's right. He was playing against us.
Yeah.
There you go. That is a great point. Everton that was very good, Jamie. Well played.
Yeah, I can't take all the credit for it. I seen it someplace else.
Never need to not take credit for a good joke when you have one, Jamie. Have you not watched any of mine, Bickler, and Timuchin's podcast? All we do is take credit for half the things you say in Discord all week. So with that, if you're watching this podcast on Facebook, if you're on our YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, share. If there's content you want to see, if there's things you want to hear more about, or you have ideas for new content or articles we can run through our website, share it with us, send us a message on Facebook. And as always, thank you for listening and have a great night.